Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 8 o'clock main news. In tonight's headlines, the Crescent Sighting Authority convenes to spot the crescent of the new lunar month of Shawwal. The personal representative of His Highness the Emir of Qatar and his accompanying official delegation arrive in Kuwait on an official visit. A 24-hour ceasefire announced in Gaza appears to be stalling, with both Palestinians and Israel continuing their offensives. And the US Embassy in Libya has been shut down and moved to safety in neighbouring Tunisia. The Ministry of Justice announced that the Crescent Sighting Authority convened at 7:30 p.m. today at the Kuwait Institute for Judicial and Legal Studies to spot the crescent of the new lunar month of Shawwal. The ministry appealed to all those who can spot the crescent of Shawwal at that night to come forward to the authority for testimony. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Justice seized this opportunity to extend sincere congratulations to His Highness the Emir, Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, His Highness the Crown Prince, Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, and His Highness Sheikh Jaber Al-Mbarak Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, as well as to all citizens and expatriates on the advent of Eid al-Fitr. The Emiri Diwan conveyed to citizens and expatriates the congratulations of His Highness the Emir, Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, on the advent of Eid al-Fitr. The Diwan seized this blessed occasion to extend congratulations to His Highness the Emir, His Highness the Crown Prince, Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, and His Highness Sheikh Jaber Al-Mbarak Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, on the advent of Eid al-Fitr. The Emiri Diwan also extended congratulations to the nationals and residents on the same occasion, wishing the Arab and Muslim nations more prosperous returns of this occasion and Kuwait further security and safety under the wise leadership of His Highness the Emir. The personal representative of His Highness the Emir of the State of Qatar, Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani, and his accompanying official delegation arrived in Kuwait this afternoon on an official visit to the country. His Highness Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad was received at the airport by the First Deputy Premier and Foreign Minister Sheikh Sabah Al-Khalid Al-Hamad Al-Sabah and the Deputy Minister of Emiri Diwan Affairs Sheikh Ali Jarrah Al-Sabah. Hamas belatedly said it has agreed to a 24-hour humanitarian truce shortly after Israel announced a resumption of hostilities in Gaza following a day-long pause. There was no immediate word from Israel, which called off its own 24-hour truce earlier in the day after Hamas fired a volley of rockets into southern and central Israel. The strikes resumed today with the initial 3 people killed by shelling, 2 of them in central Gaza and a third near Khan Yunis in the south. Their deaths raised the total toll since July 8th to more than 1,050 Palestinians, while another 6,000 have been injured. Earlier, the Israeli army said it is resuming its raids on Gaza by land, sea and air after Hamas continued firing rockets, ending a unilateral 24-hour humanitarian truce. For the 4th continuous week, the Israeli war on Gaza continues with no ceasefire in sight. Majd Al-Wahidi has more from Gaza.
Gaza by air, land and sea is still a daily reality. Earlier, a humanitarian truce went into force, but attempts of securing a permanent truce seem to go nowhere, as Israel insists it would extend the ceasefire for days, but would continue searching for and destroying tunnels in the Strip. For Hamas, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine and others, there is no calm without responding to their demands.
The only options are the withdrawal of Israeli occupation forces and a response to the demand of the Palestinians. The international community should consider the core of the problem. What we fear now is that they want to disarm all the Palestinian people, leaving them in a framework similar to the Oslo project, to set an end for the Palestinian cause in the light of an American and Israeli vision.
The 12-hour humanitarian window allowed residents to leave their homes and move safely, but scenes of devastation were too much for any human being, with entire buildings razed into rubble and rescue teams digging to evacuate dead bodies. What this man built in 30 years became nothing in less than 30 seconds after an Israeli airstrike hit.
They destroyed my building. I had a factory and cars, but they no longer exist. I don't know where to go and how to live. This is a disaster.
Since 3 weeks, Israel has launched Operation Protective Edge to target fighters who continue to launch rockets into Israel. On the Israeli side, at least 40 soldiers were reported dead. With no safe shelters or sirens in Gaza, more than 1,000 people lost their souls, most of them children and women, and those who were lucky to survive are now displaced and orphans.
استشهدت الأم على المطرح وأخوها عمره 15 سنة، أختها عمرها 17 سنة، حاولنا نسعفها يعني وأخذوها على كمال عدوان، وأنا استعفت هذه على الشفاء. أختها في كمال عدوان ما تحملتش لأن الشظايا كانت مدمرة كل شيء في بطنها فاستشهدت.
Gaza's open-air prison speaks volumes of aggression and genocide acts. With no sign of a ceasefire, a new round of destruction begins. Despite constant losses and grief, people in Gaza still have high expectations. They say that those who launch rockets into Israel may achieve dignity and victory for Palestinian people, especially after a long time of living under the stress of siege and war attacks. Majlou Haidi, Kuwait TV, Gaza.
14 militants have been killed and 47 others arrested in raids carried out by Egyptian army in the country's North Sinai area. Army raids in North Sinai had earlier killed 12 militants. 11 suspects were also arrested during Friday raids as the army destroyed 36 houses and 40 shelters used by Takfiri groups and also destroyed 5 cars and 12 motorcycles owned by them. Militants attacked a military checkpoint in the Wadi al-Jadid governorate in southern Egypt last week, killing 21 Egyptian border guards and injuring 4 others. The guards were killed during the exchange of fire with the unknown gunmen, which led to the exploding of the checkpoint's ammunition storage. Also on Friday, 2 senior security force officers were killed by unknown gunmen in the Sheikh Zayed in North Sinai. The United States suspended diplomatic activities at its embassy in Libya and moved its diplomats to neighbouring Tunisia after a U.S. military escort as fighting intensified between rival militias. The move underscored the Obama administration's concern about the heightened risk to American diplomats abroad, particularly in Libya, where memories of the deadly 2012 attack on the U.S. mission in the eastern city of Benghazi were still vivid. Turkey has also suspended operations and evacuated its diplomatic mission in Libya. The fighting has killed dozens and now has moved into Tripoli itself, forcing evacuations of expatriates working for foreign oil firms as well as a large part of the United Nations staff. White smoke was seen billowing from parts of Donetsk as Ukrainian officials announced their forces had advanced to the outskirts of a town north of the rebel stronghold. A Ukrainian national security spokesman said Ukrainian forces were outside the town of Orlakiva. The city of Donetsk has been held by pro-Russian rebels for months. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko visited the training base of the National Guard of Ukraine, where he inspected new military vehicles and weapons. Russia marked Navy Day with a military parade in the Crimean city of Sevastopol today for the first time since Russia annexed the peninsula from Ukraine in March. Russia annexed Crimea, which was gifted by Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev to Ukraine in 1954, when Ukraine and Russia were both parts of the Soviet Union in the middle of March, seizing all the military bases in the region. Russia's seizure of Crimea after the ousting of Ukraine's pro-Russian president by mass protests in Kiev has triggered the worst East-West crisis since the Cold War. The Afghan Election Commission, or the IEC, announced that the presidential runoff vote auditing process has temporarily been suspended by the IEC and the process will resume after the upcoming Eid festival. Preliminary results showed that Ashraf Ghani went ahead. However, former Foreign Minister Abdullah refused to accept the outcome and accused the Election Commission of committing fraud and demanded a vote recount. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry brokered an agreement between the 2 Afghan presidential candidates on July 12th, breaking the election deadlock and paving the way for the formation of a national unity government in the country. Under the agreement, the candidate who secures the majority of the votes in the audit process will become the country's president, while his opponent would serve as chief executive, which is tantamount to the position of a prime minister. French police fired tear gas as clashes broke out at a banned pro-Gaza demonstration as thousands defied a ban on the protest. At least 3,000 people gathered at the Place de la République in eastern Paris under the watch of several hundred riot police. The Interior Minister had earlier called on organisers of the Paris demonstration to observe the ban imposed to halt potential anti-Semitic violence. Despite it being banned, some threw stones and bottles at riot police, who responded with tear gas. A wildfire has forced the evacuation of more than 500 homes and about 1,200 residents in a rural area east of California's state capital, Sacramento, today, a day after the blaze broke out. A windswept fire burnt more than 3,000 acres, destroying 5 residences and 2 outbuildings and caused 1 minor injury. Officials said the fire was about 20% contained. Flames are moving rapidly this afternoon, but dying winds and cooler temperatures are helping firefighters take control. An evacuation shelter for people, livestock and pet was established at a local high school. More than 50 fire engines were on the scene of the fire, the cause of which is still under investigation. Up the news, here the headlines once again. The Crescent Sighting Authority has convened to spot the crescent of the new lunar month of Shawwal. The personal representative of His Highness the Emir of Qatar and his accompanying official delegation arrive in Kuwait on an official visit. A 24-hour ceasefire announced in Gaza appears to be stalling, with both Palestinians and Israel continuing their offensives. And the US Embassy in Libya has been shut down and moved to safety in neighbouring Tunisia. Thank you for joining us.